Hey, Ron Newcomb here with the Indie Coach podcast. I'm here with my new friend, Isabel Drean. Is that right? Hopefully, I got that right. Excellent, outstanding. I appreciate it. So I'm excited to have this conversation. I was trying to get, it's one of these days, Isabel, where I'm doing 50 million things, as I'm sure a lot of indie filmmakers can relate to, including yourself. And the day just kind of got away from me because, of course, I have a W-2 on top of all this. And I had planned to go, get dressed up and look nice, but you got me as I am because I felt this was so important. We were just going to dive into it to make this happen. So this information is going to be in real time. We're going to give you as much information as we can. And then at the end of it, I'm really looking forward to also helping get the word out about Isabel has some class and some training elements that I'd love to ensure that you know about. So to kind of kick us off, Isabel, I'd love for you to maybe just dive into a little bit of your background and maybe what first drew you in to filmmaking and kind of what was your origin story, if you will.
Yeah, well, I'm from Montreal. I'm from Quebec. So I have a quite an eclectic path because so I started as an actress, like a lot of women in the industry. When I was younger, it was kind of the only path for us to be involved. So um, went into theater, moved to New York City in my early 20s and studied at the Lee Strasberg Institute. Became a theater producer quite early on at 23, put some off-Broadway shows together and then moved to LA. But as you can hear, I have an accent and couldn't quite get rid of it. And that was really difficult because also my accent is not quite typical French. So it was very hard for, I think, direct casting director to typecast me, which is the thing. And so basically, after a while, it was just, I had enough. And also, like, I think now looking back, I wonder how I ever was an actress because
Yeah.
it's really not for me. But I don't like being in front of cameras. I don't like having photos taken. So obviously the wrong profession. But, just to have a huge love of movies.
Yeah.
And so but so there was a moment where I quit. I sold everything I owned and I was like, I want to travel the world. I bought a round the world ticket and the plan was to do a year around the world and then decide what I was going to do next. And in that trip, I ended up in Laos, which is in Southeast Asia, for those who don't know, between Thailand and Vietnam, and fell in love with a little town called Luang Prabang. And I opened the first licensed bookstore after the communist era in Laos and stayed there for 10 years. I
Wow.
had a bookstore, I had a bar, I had restaurants, I opened a fair trade company to give back to the community, did some development with the World Bank, did some multimedia exhibition to help tourists be better tourists and how to spend their money and how like a lot of cultural connection, like making a connection between visitors and the local culture. And I did that for about 10 years, had a couple kids. And at a certain birthday, the cinema bug came back tugging at me. And I was like, okay, those moments where, okay, at my deathbed, what regret would I have if I don't accomplish things? And I was like, well, if I don't make movies, I will definitely have regrets. And I'm a person that live my life with no regrets. And basically decided to leave. I packed my bags, we sold the bar, and I had my mom run some of my businesses and came back to America. So my partner at the time did not have his green card, so we went to Canada. And at the time, so I had this idea for a web series platform, like I could see where you could have a platform where, I mean, it was streaming, but I had this idea in 1999. So It was a platform for curated web series, and I didn't do it then, but when I came back in 2010, nobody had done it in Canada anyway. And so I was like, why don't we do that? And also that allows you to get into the business at the top as a broadcaster, streamer. And so I launched within 2 months, we launched our platform, which was our tagline was the first indie web series platform. Um, and I think the word indie really attracted really cool creators and stuff. So we through that developed like 30 to 50 different web series, and but the goal was for us to produce. So eventually we got funding and I started producing and of course directing. And I wasn't really into writing. I mean, I wrote a screenplay in 99 as an to write a part for myself. A lot of people were doing that at the time. But I had interest from Miramax and but just left, and that was that. And that was my only experience with writing, but I really wanted to be a director. So we did that for 3 years, and then I separated from my partner and decided to come back to the States because LA was really where I wanted to be. And so I gave the company, came here and wanted to just direct, but I had two young kids, so I couldn't do that. And that's a lot of, women dealing with that at home. So I turned to writing. And also I couldn't find projects. Really, for a couple of years, I didn't write. And as a director, I was reading screenplays and I was trying to find my first feature, my project. Couldn't find anything that I wanted to make. And so I turned to writing. So that little script I wrote in 1999, took it out of the drawer. And because at the time I had been read by all the studios and got some recommend and consider. And Miramax wanted to make it. And long story, I just left the country, but I took the script, did a rewrite, and within 3 months placed in the Nickel Fellowship.
Wow.
And so, and then I got a manager, and from there I met a producer who eventually became the producer. We developed a pilot first, and eventually she came to knock on my door about writing Christmas movies in 2019, 2019, end of 2019. During that time, for 4 years, from 2015 to 2019, I was writing horror and thrillers. And then this curveball of writing Christmas movies, and I said, I can try. I wrote one, and they wanted to make it. The pandemic hit, and so it took a year of delay. But then they had another. They had three a slate of three movies, and basically it was me, another writer, and they decided to hire me again for the third one. And so the following year, those two movies got greenlit and they got another slate of three. And instead of hiring three writers, they just gave all of them to me. So I wrote one in January, one in June, and one in January, one in April, and one in June. And they were shot June, July, August.
Oh my God.
And so, yeah, so then I had 5 movies made over 18 months. And I think that kind of launched my career as a professional writer, started getting assignments, and I've been making a living as a writer ever since.
Wow,
And so,
that's amazing. Is that what you would call yourself more of now, more of a writer?
well, I make a living as a professional writer. And now that my kids have grown, now I am trying to get back into the director's chair and also producing. So now, like really in the last few months, really like putting this as a priority. But for the last 5 years, it's been writing and teaching, consulting, mentoring other writers into learning how to write Christmas movies. And because also one of the things is that I write quite fast and I developed a system to write well and fast in that space. So that's, as a supplement of income through the writing, that is something that I've been doing as well. And so I've mentored maybe in over 2.5 years now, hundreds of writers and doing
Awesome.
talks and interviews. Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. If you were going to start from scratch today, what would you do differently, if anything at all? So if you were starting today in 2025, what would you do differently?
Well, the curveball that I didn't expect, I think, is when I moved to the US by myself with two kids that I didn't have support, how hard it would have been to go back to become a director and do what I wanted to do. So that was definitely something that I hadn't planned. I think I don't know if I would do anything different because, it felt right.
Hmm.
And now I'm looking back and I'm thinking, you know what, maybe I would have never become a writer and actually do the work because I did the work. And I do think that it takes a while to become a professional writer. It takes years, maybe, people say 10, I was lucky to make it in 5, but would have I put the work? So I don't know if I would have done anything different.
Yeah.
I'm, I might have gone back later where I think maybe I shouldn't have left for Asia, but at the same time, it's life experience and everybody has to come to terms to their decisions. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have done anything different, but there were definitely challenges.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. I mean, everybody, that's one thing I've learned is everybody forms their own path. But it is a little bit like leaving breadcrumbs that other people can find. And although they too will have a unique path, there is something to be said about, hey, it's this way, kind of move in this direction kind of thing. So one of the things that really struck my eye that you have been or seem to be working on currently that I am really trying to deep dive into to understand to see if this is a real financial opportunity, if it's an opportunity for storytelling. But can you talk a little bit about the new venture in the world of vertical filmmaking?
Yes, so this year I wrote two verticals that were greenlit. One is in post and one is in pre-production. And so I didn't even know anything about verticals a few months ago. I don't know, I missed that kind of wave, but I think vertical right now is where web series were in 2010s, like early 2010s, which, I was kind of a pioneer in that because 2010 with our platform, we were one of the first ones who did, we got some funding and we did one of the first web series with, in Quebec, we used TV stars, big names and high quality, like top quality show. And we did a multi-format. So we did like a TV movie. We edited in 3 formats and sold it in different platforms.
That's smart. Yeah.
So we had it on our platform. We sold it to Yahoo at the time, who were doing web series streaming, I guess. And then we sold it to airplanes and we sold it to TV. And so we had a DVD, we had a distributor. So we really used that. And we won the grand prize at the LA Web Fest, Melbourne. Like we were one of the best web series. And we really did make a name for ourselves at that time. It was a great opportunity, for young creators or upcoming creators to make a name. A couple of creators from our platform ended up at Cannes with like as in the fortnight and even in competition as directors and writers. So top level talent, and but we all started together at that moment. I do feel the verticals, the podcast, there was a podcast, narrative podcast a few years ago, similar thing. I almost caught that wave, but because of the strike, I lost the deal. But I see that the verticals are that right now. I feel like web series, narrative podcasts, or little side doors to the industry that get created. And if you play your cards right, they can give you entry. They can put a spotlight on you. Is a really good way to show your talent for less money and less gatekeeping. Right now, there's not very much gatekeeping in that world. So the money is, sorry, my French, but the money is in some places quite shitty, almost exploitative in some places. But it's getting better already. In a few months, I see, like, at first it was like $1,000. There's no way I'm going to write a 90-page script for $1,000. But
Yeah.
depending on your experience, and you can negotiate. But when we're talking about 4 or 5,000 or 3 5,000 dollars, and if you can write fast, like I write them over 4 days, so like a weekend, it's not so bad, like it's not so bad money. And then if you can pay your bills that month, I mean, in the industry, the way it is now, like if you can pay your bills, you're doing good,
Yeah.
better than most. So, but at the same time, I think the quality, I think right now we're at a crossroad where we have the real shorts and the drama box that are doing the telenovela type, um, very melodramatic. And then I think we are at a crossroad between that and what it's going to be, because we already know Amazon and Netflix are testing the verticals in India. It's inevitable that I believe, this is my prediction, I believe that everyone will be in the vertical business very soon, either as a supplement to content, but it is where the audience is. So it would be stupid not to be using it. I think it's for me, I find it extremely exciting, because when you take out gatekeeping, and the road is, right now the road has not been created. There's paths that you can create for yourself if you're visionary, and you can have, like, and you can try things, and it doesn't work. Doesn't mean that everything's going to work, but it's kind of nice to have like a blank canvas instead of like the rules of Hollywood, of the way that things work. I think the game is going to be figured out now, and it's kind of the Wild West now, but the Wild West is exciting, like, because you can become a figure, or a leader in that space. Like I just launched my first, like, a master class, which we mentioned, how to write a vertical series. And I'm literally the first person teaching vertical screenwriting. I mean, I looked, there's no one in the world. I'm the first one. And it's like, that's exciting. And we're doing an incubator next week with an exec from a new platform. And these writers can participate, learn how to write, and get a chance to be optioned, and at rates that are not exploitative, and also elevated vertical. So already, an exciting opportunity. And now I've had another company that approached me to do it with their platform. So this might be something that I'm going to become someone who creates a pipeline to introduce writers to people that hire them. And one of my goals since, I became a produced writer, noticing the difference between, like, it's a different planet to be a produced writer versus a non-produced writer. If people knew, like, how it changes everything, like, I think they would do anything that they could to actually get produced.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, that's the thing. Once you realize the difference, how people treat you, how easy, like, it becomes a much smoother process once you come in this side. So it's been like my goal, and to help as many people to cross that line, to become from not produced to produced. And now this is like it's going to help me even more. The vertical is going to help me in my mission of helping many writers getting jobs and getting produced, because the budgets are lower. Everybody's getting into it, and not a lot of people know how to write it then. So very exciting time, I find.
Yeah, no, I do as well. I think we all can recognize that there's a bit of an upheaval in Hollywood, but that also creates opportunities for particularly those of us that have been kind of waiting on the patiently on the sidelines and trying to get into the game. I think verticals is a great way to potentially do that. I too was an early adopter of web series and did a web series called The Rangers that I kicked off. And then I also created a streaming platform called the Fantasy Network, where we did independent fantasy and sci-fi content. Unfortunately, COVID hit right at that time. Otherwise, I think we'd still be going because it was a great business model and had a lot of opportunities for the filmmaker. When we talk about verticals, I 100% agree with you that the audience is there, and whomever owns the audience owns the day. You can greenlight your own stuff these days if you own the audience. However, if I do a vertical project and I'm an indie filmmaker, what would be kind of the next step for me? Am I trying to go get a manager to see if the manager or agent can pitch the streamers or the studios? Are they looking at vertical content and there's a potential financial pipeline there? Or am I going directly onto a platform and trying to monetize the platform? What do you see as the viable next step for vertical?
I don't personally, I don't think that people should make very vertical to try to get into the horizontal space. Not as a goal. It might happen,
Okay.
but I don't think that's why you should make a vertical series. If that's your goal, then just stay in, because right now there's going to be a fracture between this world and Hollywood or the Hollywood system.
Yeah.
Make the best content that you can make. And
Yep.
then eventually this world is going to come across this world and pay attention. It's the same thing how they're poaching on YouTube creators that are making good stuff.
Yeah.
I think now because of the vertical, obviously it's going to become busy very, very fast. But right now we still have time to put stuff out there that will stand out and they can come. I don't think that you have to go to them with a vertical. I mean, honestly, I don't even think that right now they would even know what to do
Hmm.
with that,
Okay.
and it's always the same. Hollywood and the studios and all, they're always a step behind,
Yeah.
in those
Yeah.
movements,
Yeah.
these things. Like when they did the web series, all the studios eventually had their little web series studio
Yeah.
connected to the studios. But in 2010, when I created my platform, I was too early. I was way early. But if I had decided that that's what I wanted to do, I would have been there when
Sure.
they caught
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
But they caught on in like 2017, 2016, 2017. That's when
Yeah.
they really like the gold moment for the web series. I think this is what's going to happen now is going to be the wild west or create the and not great at the moment. I don't know one great vertical series that I have stand out at this moment. So, that means that there's a lot of room for really good stuff, really cool stuff, and innovative stuff. Try to think about making something cool, something different. Think outside the box. This is the moment to think outside the box, not trying to we're getting pitches for verticals and people are literally pitching us TV shows. I'm like, it's not a TV show,
Yeah. Okay.
right? It's not a TV show. It's a vertical. You have to start thinking in that format. It's a cliffhanger, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a roller coaster ride,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I of course am down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out this medium. And that was one of the things that I saw a lot of South Americans, it seems to me, the Latino Spanish community has really embraced this in the genre space of romance. And it's kind of that sizzle romance. A lot of people don't know that romance genre is the number one sold genre in books. And so it understandably why it translates well to these cliffhanger moments. And I see that they're doing extremely well. Am if I'm remembering correctly, there was a studio down in South America that actually got a lot of capital to explore and dive deeper into vertical space. So I don't believe it's going anywhere soon. I don't know. I think you're right on about do your thing now, and the studios, streamers, they're going to catch up, and you want to be there when they do, and then they'll kind of cross pollinate over to you and then try to pilfer, and then hopefully you can level up from that
Well, I
element.
mean, it depends, right? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I
It,
want to make a distinction because right now there's two vertical world, right? The one where you write for a platform that already exists, so that's, and when you do that, like my two series, they own the IP. This is not independent produce. It's not like let's make our own. So I just wanted to make a clarification when if you're writing for Real Short, if you're writing for Drama Box, this is a paycheck and
oh,
you're not the creator of your series.
see, right?
It's very different from create like what we did, right? In web
Yes,
series, I owned my web series.
right,
I sold it to television. I even sold it to Warner Brothers for a TV show in America. I was the owner of the IP. So when I say like go out there, make good stuff, I'm talking about you self-finance or find the money where you are the creator and you own your IP. That
right.
is very different path than all these apps that are hiring people right now to write the telenovelas, the romance thing that they're doing paid as a staff. They hire you, you do the job, you deliver, and that's done. So I just wanted to make the distinction because
Yeah,
uh, if you're not familiar with vertical, you hear vertical. I think people are confusing the two spaces. The indie space of you owning your work is almost non-existent right now. And this is what excites me, actually. That's the part that I'm talking about. If
okay.
people hear me and say, oh, Drama Box, Real Short, they own everything. Yes, that's right. So there's going to be two highway, I believe, two pathways. The one way you get to pay your bills and you work for other people and you ride the, you know, not so good stuff that you may not want to write, but it pays your bill. And actually, a lot of producers are trying to make them better. I have to say, like the ones that I wrote for the producer I did in Canada, they were quite good. And we're trying to female empowerment, remove the misogyny, remove all the because if you've been familiar, if you've gone down the rabbit hole, is very rapey, very misogynistic, a lot of fetishism. So a lot of people are trying to move away from that because, of course, there's a visceral reaction from women
Of course.
in the Western world, like, oh, this is not okay.
Yeah.
So you have a big range, but what I'm talking about, the exciting part is the indie part, where you can create your own thing. Instead of making a short film, you're making it like this. You're making episodes, people, on social media, YouTube, whatever, but you're creating something of value, of something that has your voice and your creativity. So I just wanted to clarify
It's good.
that. One, you own the IP, and one, you're just an
For
employee.
hire, you get it done, and you're
Exactly, for hire. And that's a great way to pay your bills as a writer.
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, thank God that there's opportunities still for writing, paid writing out there. It might not be ideal for everyone, but for the right person, it can be.
Yes.
Um, I know you're doing some training, and like you said, you're going to be the first one kind of talking about this vertical space. And so I don't want certainly for you to try to give away the secret sauce
Oh,
or the
I give away. I give away.
right.
I don't. Yeah, no, I don't believe in gatekeeping at all. Because when I do podcasts like or interviews, I always try to give as much because it's proven, right?
Yeah,
That
it
the
does.
more you
Yeah,
give, the more people
can't
want,
give away too
if
much. Yeah,
people see that they can learn from me in
that's right.
this space,
Yeah.
then they know that they can learn from me in my class.
Absolutely. And this is
Uh,
finite, it's
yeah.
limited. They're not getting your full,
No, I have no, I don't do that. Oh, I'm not going to talk about that. No, I
uh,
talk about
very
everything. And
sweet. That's
and I
nice.
will tell you, the master class that I did last week, it was a 2-hour master class. I advertised, but I hadn't prepared the class, so I advertised it as a 2-hour master class. And then I started putting this together and I was like, oh, this is not 2 hours. And so I told everyone at the beginning of the class, it was a live class. We had over 40 people. And I was like, it's going to be long. So just fasten your seatbelt. If you have to go, you can watch the recording. But it turned out to be almost like 5 minutes short of 4 hours.
Yeah, I bet.
That's,
Is there
yeah.
one thing in particular that you need to start thinking about with vertical? The obvious being the narrow landscape of which you're viewing, but is there something else that you're like, hey, in vertical, you really need to ensure that? Is there anything that you can offer there?
The big takeaway, the first thing that shocked me is that there's no setup.
Hmm.
There's no setup. And
And by
if you
setup,
watch them,
you don't mean like physical setup, like you're setting your scene up. You mean in the storyline, there's no setup of the story. Is that right?
yeah, you know how we set up a story all the
Sure.
way to the inciting incident, the
Right.
first 10
You don't-
pages, if you
yeah.
start, there's none of that.
Wow. Okay.
The story starts inciting incident, first scene, and people understand. And to me, that was like mind blowing because I was like, this is so weird. I didn't have the setup, but I understand.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Of course, in the apps now, what they're doing often, which is, usually bad writing, I use them very sporadically, but it's part of the genre, is the voiceover where you're hearing the character's
Yeah.
thoughts.
Sure.
So often they'll have that to clarify, and they will also have the name of the characters will appear,
Ah,
and maybe the relationship underneath, like
oh,
what
interesting.
is underneath that. So that's something that I'm assuming in the indie world may not happen, or maybe people will use it differently. I'm excited to see the creativity of how people are going to use that format, because now already in this now right now they're already breaking rules that we've always known. You have to set up your story. Now there's no setup. You can't hear somebody's thought. Now they're breaking that rule. Now they're putting stuff on the screen. Like, so, I mean, what other rules can we break that that we haven't been questioning because this is the way things are made, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes you'll have a filmmaker that's going to break those rules or do something that we've never seen and go, oh, that's so interesting. Like, oh my God, I wish I would have thought of that. So that's really exciting to me because now we're breaking the mold again and reinventing a new format, and we're
Yeah.
just like it's baby step now. So that means like, where is it going to take us? Is it Netflix going to do full on series with a lot of money with big budgets on the telephone? I mean, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not? If their app, I believe that my prediction is within 12 to 18 months. I would say 12, but I'll say 18 months. There's going to be a huge player. I mean, Apple, Apple is not going to,
Okay.
Apple owns iPhones.
Yeah.
Like, Apple is not going to get into it. Like, that, I mean, that would be the one, but they don't really care about content. They make good ones, but it's not their priority. But like I would predict that Apple, Amazon, or Netflix is going to either buy an app or create an app that is going or modify their app. I don't know exactly how it's going to come about, but there's going to be a major player. And right now the Chinese companies are making more money than all like these companies.
No, yeah, no, it's definitely here to stay. I think the format is for sure. It's whether or not can we tell a story in it, can we monetize? And I think these, yeah, genres right now are showcasing that. If you were going to do a vertical, like I'm sure you've been thinking a lot about now, is there
No,
particular?
I'm actually, yeah, I'm in development
Yeah,
already.
I bet. Is there a particular genre you would lean into? Is there a genre you would avoid? How about that within the vertical space?
I don't know if drama, but I'm not a drama person, so I don't know. I don't usually find, I mean, big historical things, but, I can see something like Bridgerton or, like those big dresses, anything that is popular on TikTok. But I would say romance, of course. A rom-com, I could see, rom-com like I'm going to use him as an example, but the Woody Allen style, the walk and talking rom-com, I would see that there's a room there with comedy, obviously comedy. Um, there's a guy now on TikTok that's doing these little office uh, comedy, and he's had one of the fastest growing account on TikTok. Like to $1 million followers, and
Oh, okay.
people find him funny. He created this character, so it's kind of more like a sitcom type of thing, but sitcom or but of course my all-time, my favorite it would be horror. That's yeah.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that you're not seeing, like, at least for now, these crazy budgets. They're somewhat limited in scope because the ROI is not really fully defined yet. So it's kind of, again, reminds me of the web series days. Like, how am I going to get my money back? Well, it was really about the exposure, getting your story out there and getting it seen by the right eyeballs so that you could continue to tell that storyline in a maybe a bigger format financially. Do you have like you mentioned episodes, if you will, are kind of in that 2 minute marker. There's a cliffhanger on there. What kind of budgets are you seeing for how much of content? Is it generally 90 minutes of content spread out over like 2 minute episodes? And then are there budgets of a couple 100,000, or are you seeing more?
I've seen that. It's usually around 100 to 200.
Okay, gotcha.
I've seen one project that's more than that that I'm attached to write. It's going to be more, but it's not millions, you know.
Yeah, right, right.
That is one of the biggest one, that I've seen, maybe double what they're doing now, but 1 to 2 is, I think, a safe space to be in right now because of, and I know that real short is I think is like 100,000 the budgets for most of them. So say 6 character. It's the same thing as about the same thing as the Christmas movie space with the 500,000 to $1 million because the people are getting paid less.
Yeah,
And that's going to be the biggest challenge in all of this is going to be when people are starting to ask for more. They got away with $1,000 for screenwriters, and already now I see that it's more towards the 3,000. So if 5,000, I've seen, I'm hearing some people may get 10.
mhm,
Well, once you get 10,000, you're not going to get 10% of the budget as the writers. So that means the budget needs to be closer to 500,000.
yeah,
There's going to have to be business models. This is where, like, now the business models will have to be created. And with the web series, there was never one. That was the reality, is that they tried it and they never found a business model.
yeah,
Well, was it because we were in the wrong direction?
yeah, maybe so.
Because and there was, and also like the episodes were like now these episodes are 2 minutes, mostly 1.2 minutes, very fast.
Yeah,
You don't need attention. The style of the writing is much faster. There's not dialogue like this. It's very snappy, it's a different thing. Does that mean that people are going to start evolving in that and the episodes are going to get longer? Or I don't know. I watched somebody made like a few episodes as a sample, and I was watching, and they put all their episode in one video, which was like 8 minutes. And honestly, I'm not a Gen Z, and I felt it was really long.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, you need to like on at 2 minutes, if it's not moving, it feels long.
Yeah.
It feels long. So but I said in my class, like a lot of time I'm reading scripts and things are not moving. It's just not the story's not carrying. Maybe this is going to be a good test for screenwriters people are not just moving around doing nothing. There needs to be a purpose. Otherwise, it's easy to move on to another clip or another thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, because now when you have this, is more than this, like the remote. Sometimes you have to grab the remote. Now you're here. So you go like this. If it's like, out.
Yeah.
Very easy to move away from what you're watching. If you're not entertaining me, I'm out. So of course, like the steamy romance, the stuff like that. I mean, apparently more women are watching them than men. So
Yeah. When you have a project that is being presented to you, what are some absolute essentials you look for before moving forward with a project?
the team,
Okay. Yep.
who's doing it, are they solid? If the structure of the offer makes sense. Um, often it's the timeline, the work expected versus the pay, like the numbers of drafts and things like this. Like if you're going to be paying me this much money, then you need to know that I'm not doing 3 rewrites. You're
Yeah.
going to have a good first draft and a polish, and then that's it. And your director can take it from there, like, yeah. And what is the project? The two verticals I did had, I was hired to do female empowerment. So I did that. And when some discussions happened, I was fighting for that. I don't want to do anything that would feel like we're condoning rape, drugs, or things like that. Like, this is where I draw the line. I'm like, come on, guys,
Yeah.
right? Things like that. But usually, I mean, yeah. And also, like, is it going to be, am I going to get paid, and is it going to be made, and
Yeah.
all of things, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything to add if what does it look like to greenlight a project for you? Is that pretty much what you just kind of laid out, or is there something else that you realize, maybe your own internal projects? What are you going to have to do in your mind to greenlight?
Well, for I mean, again, it's the two separate space. The screenwriter for hire is really the contract that's going to get me the green light of like, okay, I get a contract. This makes sense. I can deliver, for how many thousands of dollars, how many days do I work? If the pay becomes less than $1,000 a day, I might hesitate. So whatever project it is, I have to be able to do it I need to be paid at least $1,000 a day. Otherwise, it's not worth for me to do. So that's right away. If I see, oh, it's 20 days work and it's a few $1,000s, I can't do that. So that's, and of course, like the turnaround, and when do I get the money, money up front, money when I deliver, how many days, and also trusting that I'll get paid. So that's one thing. The second thing is me as my own stories or the things I want to do, because now I'm developing with different producer, And nothing has been signed and done, but I'm in conversation to do the things that I want to do. And that is a lot harder to green light in my head because there's a lot more things that I protect when I'm the creator in terms of quality, who I'm working with. Uh, is this gonna put, I have a brand for quality, and so sometimes it's a double-edged sword because you become very protective of that. So people know me because I do quality stuff and I do good work. So I want to ensure, okay, who are these people? Is this in the right mind? And so now I'm really pitching my visions and trying to find the right collaborators. And I think as a writer, I mean, because I came from the producer side, I think I approach producer in a different way. A lot of times I see writers uh, trying to have a producer pick them. And for me, it's usually I'm the one picking the producer that I want to work with. And that's not, I mean, I know hundreds of producers, and maybe I have a couple hands full of people that I would really love to work with on that side. On that side, much more flexible, less, the contract talks, and then it's between my manager and, it's a job. On that side of the IP of where I'm the creator. But now, because I'm starting to direct again and starting to produce again, I come in as a producer and trying to find producers that have, locations, equipment, a back, a filmography that shows me that they can deliver the quality, and then uh, common vision. Common vision. And do I want to spend a year or two or three or four, with that person in my life? Really.
No, it definitely is so true that people don't really think about. I mean, every film I've ever been a part of has been like about an 8-year journey. They're never just a couple months. That's definitely, even in the biggest studios with the amount of money they can throw at it, they can turn stuff around in a year. That's still a year though.
Yeah.
So the industry's been shaken up in the past few years. We all know it. We still kind of feel it's a little bit unsteady even now. But I do think out of that opportunity, like we mentioned before, verticals is kind of one of the things that has stepped out in, and into the limelight. Where do you potentially see it going from here, and how should indie filmmakers adapt? And that can be at a macro level question or specifically to verticals. You can talk about verticals, or it can even be broader sense with the
I'll talk broader actually,
yeah.
because so this year I launched a collective called The Hub, which is a networking WhatsApp group. And as simple as that is, I mean, it's not one group, it's multiple groups now, but basically of like so like-minded people, curated. I'm the curator, and bringing people together. And that really literally have been changing, like it's a game changer for me and for the people in it, because of my approach of trying to connect and not uh gatekeep in a way. Like I feel like this industry, like you have maybe we playing cards, right? And you have three or four cards, and I've got four, and my friend's got two, and this person has one, but we all like this. And so I decided in March to basically take my whole network and opening it up to everyone that's in the network. That's how it started. And basically give my contacts to my contacts. And it's been the most like the game changer because we're all indie filmmakers and um, producer, director, and writer. And what I've realized is that I like people that are actually making things, right? Not just like producer of a short film. Like people, I mean, we have Oscar winners, we've got like Emmy winners, we've got different people at all levels, but a lot of high level people. I've realized that people don't like writers, directors, and producers are not often in same groups. You know, you'll have the screenwriter groups, the directors group, and I don't know where the producers hang out, but you know, they probably have a few groups of their own, but actually maybe not, you know. So what I did is that I put people together, and it was an adaptation because a lot of time the writers were getting very, very excited and didn't know exactly like the pick me. The desperation was felt for a moment. And I was like, you can relax, relax. We're all here. We're not going anywhere, right? Let's just chill. And I believe the energy, I mean, it was palpable for the first day, like that when I did it, and people followed me to WhatsApp because it was mostly from Facebook, but the collaborative and the connections that people are making, I believe we're on the verge of an indie revolution. That the movies, that indie films is gonna explode because people are fucking shit tired of like waiting for the system and the gatekeepers to pick them. And I think people are connecting or joining forces. And I believe that the thing with the cards is that if we all put our cards on the table, we might be able to play a game and we might be able to win. And so that's been my approach. And so now my mission of trying to help writers get produced has become my mission now is to help as many people as possible to get movies made.
Yeah.
After 2.5 months, we had the first co-production that happened in the hub from a UK producer and a Seattle producer. I introduced them through the hub, and they're making a movie.
Excellent.
And now, like, and it's like little mushrooms, right? It's like we can feel it. And this is just a micro, you know. I mean, we're, if you know, over all the groups, maybe 1,000 people. But what I'm sensing is that I believe, and the vertical is going to propel that even more because we can get, right now, when you pitch a producer, the idea of verticals, first of all, many of them are just hearing about it, or if they have heard about it, it's still unknown and it's exciting and it's $100,000 for financing. Most producers have access to $100,000. If you ask them for $100,000 to make a film or a short, or that's not, they're like, no. But if you're asking them $100,000 to make something new and be part, you know, like figure some, like it's the new thing. So I have conversations with producers and they are excited. So it's not as hard right now to convince someone to invest $100,000 in a series, in a vertical, because everybody wants to be in, and not like, and they're afraid of missing that opportunity. So this is the gold right now, convincing producers to get in, producers with access to money. If you have the right pitch, everybody wants to get in. So it is an easier time to get investors to invest in your project than ever before, I believe, right now, because I've never seen that excitement for web series, because web series did not have the money behind it. Verticals, they've made $5 billion in a year, and they, you know, and they're saying like it's going to be 13 billion by 2027, and I think it might even be before. We're talking billion, there's $1 billion industry, and business models are going to come in different ways, but it's easier now to convince someone to invest in this than it's ever been for a small independent producer. So that's my
Yeah,
takeaway.
I appreciate it. I love the optimism. I think you're calling it right. I think there's an opportunity there. What the business model is exactly, I don't know, but like you just indicated, those are going to be worked out. Trust me, people are not going to leave money on the table. They're going to figure this stuff out, and we're going to be able to be there if we play it right. So get out there and start making your content. For I like asking this question, not trying to Monday morning quarterback people and oversee people. I'm trying to ask this question from a position of learning. Where do you see indie filmmakers blowing it? And where do you see Hollywood blowing it?
Well, Hollywood, I think it's self-explanatory. I think it's
Probably.
very obvious where.
Yeah.
I think I think Hollywood is blowing it by having destroyed the range of $5 million movie to
Yeah.
$20 million movie. The
Yep.
same, it's a parallel of the middle class disappearing and the middle class movie disappearing, and that is a problem, huge problem. Because I think, instead of making one 200, 2 million, $100 million movie that's going to flop, why don't you make 20 and everybody can work, right?
Yeah.
But so that's the biggest takeaway. And also like original IP. I just saw Sinners. Like, how amazing is that? And if you don't understand that that's the kind of movies we need to make, that everybody's so fucking tired to watch sequels and superhero movies. I'm sorry, I'm just not in that wagon. Like, I'm not on that train.
No.
Original. I mean, I miss the early 90s. I miss the early 90s where we had like five, six great movies every weekend. You could go see movies every day. I miss that time. And you talked about optimism. Yeah, I'm an eternal optimist. I believe that that's going to come because storytelling, people need storytelling.
Yeah.
People, the harder the time, the more story we're going to need. And right now not to get into politics, but it is a very hard time for a lot of people. So will need storytelling.
Yeah.
They'll need entertainment. So
Yep.
that is one thing. I think the return of the $5 to $20 million movies. I think indeed filmmakers need to stay under five if they want to create viable films and make, into interesting IPs or original ideas. And unfortunately, a lot of writers think that their stories are original and they need, to get support, get consultant reading their script, taking notes, and push themselves into making better screenplays. Because the thing is that I know that writers don't believe the statement that it's hard to find a good screenplay, but it is true.
Yeah.
Until screenwriters believe that sentence, that it's hard to find great screenplays, we're in trouble because most screenplays are not great.
Hmm.
And I talk to producers every single day now. And I will tell you, finding great screenplays, and one part of the hub, I'm building a database of screenplays to present to producers if they're looking for something. I'm a connector now, I would say. But it's hard. I'm trying to find great screenplays and it's hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I
But
get it.
yeah, it starts with story, right? I mean, we're told that early on in our filmmaking ventures, and yet it is as hard as they said it was. What is what's some important piece of advice that you'd give to a filmmaker who wants not only to succeed, but to stay in the business and actually have some longevity? So, advice around filmmakers wanting to succeed and then stick around.
To succeed, well, try to get something made is key. So that's why, what it is, a short or a vertical, or so sometimes the first deal may not be the best deal. Like my first deal was not a great deal. My lawyer fired me literally for signing a bad deal. But sometimes that first deal is the thing that's going to take you. If I didn't sign that first deal, I wouldn't have 5 movies made. I wouldn't have, the creds to do teaching. I wouldn't have and I literally, when you're building your brand, it's important to have credits. So sometimes, you have to do write things that you don't want to write. You have to do, and the idea that it's going to be just what you want to write and just on spec. Screenwriters make money as screenwriters for hire.
Yeah.
That's the key. So, and the big mistake for writers is that people don't want to be online, don't want to be, have a presence or build a following, that it is a different job.
Yeah.
It's not. Anybody now, if you go on TikTok, who are there? Novelist, plastic surgeon, nutritionist, fitness, everyone, historian, like everybody. If you are selling something, and this is the biggest misconception about screenwriting, when I have a class called How to Sell Your Script Without a Rep, because I wasn't repped when I sold my script. The first chapter, I said, congratulations, now you're a salesperson. And people don't realize that when you're a screenwriter, you are writing half the time, but maybe even not. Maybe you're trying to, and if you're not writing 20% of the time and trying to sell 80% of the time, then you're not selling. The reason I'm doing so well is that I do write. I mean, I write fast, so I can write 3, 4 scripts a year, but most of my time is spent networking. And when I say selling, not pitching and trying to sell, but selling meaning building relationships,
Right.
getting to know people, figuring out what they need so I can help them. But literally, most of my time is networking, getting my brand, myself out there, exactly like we're doing today. You reached out. I was like, yes, if people don't see you, they're not going to know you. They're not going to think of you. And when people go, oh, my script is going to talk for itself. I'm sorry. Wake up call. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
People are picking people. The script needs to be great, but people want to work with individuals that they like.
That's right.
So you build relationship, and that is most of your work. So you write, but the reality is that you have to be out there. So social media is a great tool. And I know that some people are like, no, it's just my writing is going to do the job. I'm sorry, but not this year, not now. I mean, unless you win the lottery, and maybe that will happen by winning. I don't know what contest now, because the contest world has completely collapsed. What chance do you have for people to think of you?
Yeah. No,
No.
completely agree. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah. Um, if because you are into training and teaching, educating, and consulting, do you have any books, videos, or web training that you've taken that's changed your life or your career that you would recommend?
I'm actually self-taught, so no. I definitely don't recommend Save the Cat. I don't recommend, because I think it's bullshit. But I mean, I think there's a formula, like there's in theory, what he says, it's true, but you cannot have 12 or 15 steps for every genre, because every genre has a different structure.
Mhm.
So to me, that's bullshit. And maybe that's one of the problems we have now with the bad screenplays. But um, I did watch the masterclass by David Lynch. The
Sure.
brand
Yeah.
masterclass. They have and one by oh my Herzog, Werner. How do you pronounce
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
again?
Yeah. That's
Werner or Werner?
yeah.
Herzog.
Yeah.
Werner.
Yeah. I know
I
what you're
don't know
talking
why
about.
I'm tripping on that today. But anyway, Herzog and David Lynch on masterclass. Those are incredible. And one YouTube video, the Inside Pitch did an interview with Christopher McQuarrie. It's on YouTube, the Inside Pitch, and it's like a 2 hour talk, I think, or that is one of the best screenwriting talk I've ever seen, if you've seen one. But I would definitely advise watching. I mean, anything that McQuarrie says, if you can watch anything that he says, if you see him in a video, run, find him, because this man is like everything that comes, like he's no bullshitter. And he just said the industry's collapse and the future is to writer director.
There we go.
He just said this week. So, but that video from the Inside Pitch is definitely something I would advise to read. And but unfortunately, yeah, I'm self-taught. So I actually just did the work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, self-taught, means that it sticks. And sometimes the school of hard knocks is they're a saying for a reason, because sometimes it's going through the fire that you have to refine yourself and learn. So as we come to our time ending, where can people find you, follow your work, or even reach out to potentially collaborate? Where would be the best place for people to go?
Yeah, so my website is isabeldrean.com. So ISABELDREAN.com. On social media, I'm Isabel Drean almost everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and on WhatsApp. I think you have to find me on the other so I can pass you along the film and TV hub if you want to join. If you're a creator and want to join the hub, is a great place, great people, kind of life-changing. So I invite people. We have a Substack now, the Hub Studio, where our collaborators are starting to share their experiences. We're just 3 articles in, but I'm very excited about that. And my classes, 21dayscreenplay.com. I teach how to write a Christmas movie in 21 days, how to sell your script without a rep. I have one free class called How to Break into the Industry with a Christmas Movie. That's free. You can sign up and you'll have my newsletter. And of course, now pre-recorded how to write a vertical series. And this weekend, July 11, 12, 13, and July, I think 17, 18, 19, we're doing an incubator with director Magandra Singh, as he's a director in vertical space for a year, and he's now an executive in this new platform. And so writers are we're basically doing exactly what we would be doing in a professional setting. Every step, the outlining, the writing, and Magandra is going to be giving notes and a potential option at the end of the incubator. And if he doesn't option it and he feels that the quality is there, he can also make introduction to all the exec, because he knows people at Real Short, Drama Box, and all of those. And a lot of people are looking for scripts at the moment. They're all looking. And so he's helping pick the right concept. Like, it's really from idea to delivery to weekend. And we're going to do that together. So it's the first one of its kind. And I'm very excited to do that. So that's, I think, yeah, everywhere you can find me.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Isabel, it's been a great joy. I mean, this topic has been one that I've really been down the rabbit hole with lately, and was so glad I came across your post and your willingness to be able to speak with me. So I definitely appreciate that. Your information was as solid as I was hoping it would be. So again, appreciate your time, your willingness to come on. But I appreciate you all for listening and watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment so Isabella and I can know anyone's out there and that we're trying to make a difference here. But I believe we're good to conclude our discussion with Isabel Drean. And remember, nothing is wasted.